and today we will take chapter 17, section 1. We're still in chapter 17, section 1. What is psychotherapy? Who are therapists? Okay, who is a therapist? We took psychotherapy. Psychotherapy is the treatment. Who are the therapists? Okay, here, the person that you go to organize your ideas. He said to you that you have, this you don't have to memorize it or anything, you just have to know it. Okay, clinical psychologists or clinical psychologists, therapists with a PhD. Okay, he took a doctor in psychology. Okay, so they treat people with psychological disorders in hospitals, clinics, and community health centers. Then we have counseling psychologists. They have also a master and PhD degree in counseling psychology. They usually work in educational institutions. Okay, so they are available for consulting about personal problems. That's why they are counseling, because they are available for consulting. Then clinical, okay, neuropsychologists. Neuro, it came from a word you took it in science, I'll tell you now. They have a PhD degree. They have extensive education in neuropsychology. Neuro is from the nerves, okay? The mechanism and operation of the brain. Yes, they study the mechanism and operation of the brain. Because as we said, while we studied the diseases and disorders, that the main problem is in the chemistry of the brain. So they typically work with patients who have a brain injury that is interfering with normal behavior. Okay. What happens from normal? What causes a brain injury? Not only accidents. Drug use causes brain injury. Okay. Also, alcohol use. From the more they take drug, the more they take alcohol, the more their brain gets affected. Okay. Then we have psychiatrists. Psychiatry or psychiatrists. They are medical doctors. Okay. They take postgraduate training in the causes and treatment of abnormal behavior. Because of their medical background, psychiatrists are licensed to prescribe medicines and are the only group that can perform operation. Psychiatrists. Then we have psychoanalysts. They are medical doctors who have taken special training in the theory of personality and techniques of psychotherapy of Sigmund Freud. Remember Sigmund Freud when we said he's the father of psychotherapy. Then psychiatric social workers, people with a master's degree in social work. They counsel people with everyday problems. Then psychiatric nurses. They have standard nursing license. They are nurses, not doctors. Then we have the counselors, have a master's degree from a counseling program. You can finish a school, a college, any kind of college, and then he takes a master's degree in a counseling program. So these are kinds of psychotherapists. Then, what makes a good therapist? A person who might have a PhD, a person who might have graduated from psychotherapy college. What makes a good therapist? Sometimes when we face problems, we go and talk to our friends or our parents or our relative, and sometimes this is exactly what is needed. This is exactly what you want. But professional therapists are likely to be more skillful in encouraging the person to examine uncomfortable feelings and problems. There are some people who cannot express what do they feel and how do they feel. They cannot show it, they cannot express it. An expert helps him to get out what's inside of him, helps him to express his emotions, to express his feelings, to express his problems, to tell his uncomfortable feelings and problems. So this is a therapist. A therapist does the same job of a good friend, but there are some people who cannot express their feelings, so they need a specialist. He says to you that a good therapist should have 3 things. Number 1, a therapist needs to be psychologically healthy. So, how come he will suffer from depression and he treats patients with depression? So a therapist who is anxious, defensive, withdrawn from life is a way of life. He doesn't interact with life. He will not be able to see the patient's problems clearly because he himself has problems. A second important characteristic is empathy. Empathy is a capacity of warmth and understanding. So the therapist should have a mentality that understands and accepts everyone and warmth. Okay? Why? Troubled people or people with psychological problems, they are usually fearful and confused about explaining their problems. They cannot express it well, as we said, and they fear to show their feelings and emotions. The therapist needs to be able to give the patient confidence that he is capable of caring and understanding. So number 1, psychologically healthy. He should be psychologically healthy. Number 2, he should have empathy in his character. The third thing is a good therapist must be experienced in dealing with people and understanding their complexities. That's why, remember previous week when we talked about AA, Alcoholic Anonymous and Narcotic Anonymous, those people who are addicted to alcohol and addicted to drugs, after they get healed, they start to heal others. After they get healed, they start to heal others. Why? Because they have been in this before. So they feel how the person in front of him feels. He can understand his pain. He can deal with his thoughts. So when a person thinks of going to take drug, he knows exactly how is that feeling. He knows how to deal with that feeling. So when he talks with the patient, he knows how to convince him not to take the drug. Okay, so a good therapist must, or if he hasn't been through this, he has to have experiences in dealing with this line of drug or alcohol. Or why? Because he has to understand, because when the patient says to him, I can't, he has to understand that he really can't. Only by having worked with many people can a therapist learn when to give support, when to insist that the patient stands on his feet, and how to make sense of the things people say. So psychologically healthy, empathy, experienced. These are the conditions in a good therapist. Then group therapist. So a person, there is a patient, I went to a therapist. The therapist talked with him, he helped him in organizing his ideas, he showed him the danger or the bad consequences of drugs, and the patient really wants to stop. There is a group therapy. A group therapy, as we watch in American movies, whereas in English movies, they happen even in Arabic movies. Are you with me?
Yes, miss.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember the title of the Egyptian series I told you about. It was ضد السيطرة for Nelly Karim. ضد السيطرة for Nelly Karim and Zafar Abdi. As I told you, she was an EX addict who has traveled to Dubai, and then when she came back to her house, she went back to her normal routine and she got back to her addiction. Okay. In this in this series also, they discussed the group therapies. What is a group therapy? The patient, when the patient is alone with the therapist, he feels like the therapist doesn't feel his pain. A person in a group therapy has a chance to see how other people are struggling with the same problems similar to her own or his own. So I am in a group therapy of food eaters, those people who eat compulsively, who eat a lot. So the next one suffers from the same problem. The third one suffers. We all suffer from the same problem. So we all have, we all know how do we feel. So it also helps to discover what people think of her. So it gives you self-confidence. Uh, you can express what you think of them, which gives you like life exchange experts. Okay, so when you think of people and then you figure out that you have been mistaken in your views, and this group therapy helps you to see that there are people who suffer the same way you suffer. Okay, how they are recovering from their problem and you recover too. Like this picture, they express themselves freely. Okay. He says to you that another advantage to group therapy is that one therapist can help a large number of people, like here. One therapist, but in the same time, he can help like 10 people. So he will not get paid as he is treating only one. He gets paid of all of them. Most group therapy sessions are led by a trained therapist who makes suggestions, clarifies points, and keeps activities from getting out of hand. So her training and experience are used to help as many as 20 people at once. Okay. Then we have, therapist, group therapy, family therapy. What is family therapy? Therapists often suggest after talking to the patient that the entire family unit together should work at group therapy. In family therapy, the focus is on the interactions among the family members. This method is practically useful because it untangles the twisted web of relationships that has led one to or more members of the family to experience emotional suffering. So, if God forbid the son has made a problem or in the family, he gets addicted to drug. He's a OCD. He suffers from any disorder. His family members have been affected by that. They have faced troubles because of his disorder or because of his disease. So when they gather together and they talk freely about what happened, it is a good chance to give him support. So when they bring his father, his mother, his brothers, and they support him, they talk freely that you have hurt us when you did this and this and this. You have hurt us when you neglected our appointments, when you neglected our problems, when you didn't settle with us. So when they talk freely, he feels the pain that he has caused to them. Or vice versa, they feel the pain that they have caused to him, which led him to go and be an addict of drugs, for example. Group therapy and family therapy. And as we said, that family members are unhappy because they are mistreating or being mistreated by other family members in ways no one understands or wants to talk about. So the family therapist can point out what is happening for an objective viewpoint and can suggest ways of improving communication in the family. Self-help group. Self-help group. An increasing number of self-help groups have emerged in recent years. Okay? These voluntary groups composed of people who share a particular problem. Are you with me, grade 12?
Yes.
So who can tell
Yes,
me
yes.
like what? Self-help group like what? Share a particular problem are often conducted without the active involvement of a professional therapist. Like what? Like the beginning of Alcoholic Anonymous. The people who there is no psychiatrist among them. They are just helping each other. So during regularly scheduled meetings, members of the group come together to discuss their difficulties and provide one another with support and possible solutions. Self-help group. We are compulsive eaters. We gather together every Wednesday to discuss our feelings. We are drug takers. We gather together, and that's it. But compulsive eaters can gather together, but drug takers, they have to be treated first. As we said, they have to go to the rehab first, and then they have to be in groups to be supported all the time, because a person who had fallen into drug addict, he will go back easily after he went to the rehab and he came out of it, or a detox for a month. They keep him in a place, they made for him detox for a month, and then he goes back to normal life, same stressors, same mind, he falls into drug addiction again, or alcoholic again. Self-help groups have been formed to deal with problems ranging from alcoholism, overeating, drug addiction, and child abuse. Widowhood when a person is widow. Single parenting, adjusting to cancer, gambling. So each problem of these has a group, as you can see in the movies. Okay, people who suffer from cancer, people who cannot stop gambling and wasting their monies, single parenting who need support. As we said, the best known self-help group is Alcoholic Anonymous, AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, which was founded in 1935, and this was the spark, this was the beginning. And I told you, one man couldn't stop drinking alcohol, so he went and he met another man, and then they started talking about their problems, and from this started the Alcoholic Anonymous. The idea of people gathered together to discuss what they suffer from. Okay? Then this idea of Alcoholic Anonymous meetings, they have been transformed into treatment centers. Okay? Many self-help groups have based their organization on AA model, on Alcoholic Anonymous model. They have some rules. They have a special prayer. I will show it to you. Remind me when I finish the PowerPoint. I show you their special prayer. Each individual member can call on other members for help and emotional support. Like Anonymous, AA, and this is for Australia, for example. Here you can change it: Egypt, Canada, Japan. The purpose of our Alcoholic Anonymous is to carry the AA message to the sick alcoholic who wants it. For Narcotic Anonymous is to carry the message for sick drugs who wants. Compulsive eaters. According to AA, the only way for alcoholics, for drugs takers, for compulsive eaters, because these are the three main or major addiction. There are other addictions like relationship addiction, like social media addiction, okay, like There are many other addictions, but these were the three major addictions: alcoholic, eating, drugs. The only thing they have to admit is that they are powerless over alcohol or over their drug. I am powerless. I will highlight it because I want you to, they are powerless over alcohol and that their lives have become unmanageable. This is very important, girls. Why? People, when they face a problem, when they talk with their family members, friends, they say to them, you have to gain power. You have to be strong. Don't use it. Just see the drug and don't use it. It's not that easy. People have to understand that it is not that easy. The mentality of a person who is used to drug is different than your mentality. The mentality for a person who is a compulsive eater is different than your mentality. So you can fast. He can't fast. He suffers when he fasts. So this course helps you to accept. What is accept? Accept and don't judge. Don't look at her and she say, she is so fat. Why can't she stop eating? We do this in a stage of our lives. We judge without feeling that we are judging, but we judge. It is easy. Just have power. You will stop it. No, they don't have power. You are weak towards something and they are weak towards something. There are weaknesses in our personalities. But some of us can stand for themselves and some cannot stand for themselves. So an addict has to admit, I am powerless over alcohol. I am powerless. I don't have any power. I can't resist. What do I have to make? I have to be aware of it. A compulsive eater doesn't go to a fancy restaurant and sit there, an open buffet, for example. No, because she will eat all the buffet. No, avoid going to places like this. A drug addict, he cannot go out with the same friends because they will use drugs, he will fall again. Alcoholics must come to believe that some power greater than themselves can help them. And the power greater than themselves is the relation with God. His relation with God. And those who don't believe, God forbid, they have to find a greater, that's why they say it's a greater power. Greater power to help you. So a Muslim or a Christian or a Jewish, they have to find greater power. Those who think they can battle the problem alone will not be successful. No one can battle a problem alone, of addiction alone, because he is weak to this substance. He is weak to food. He is weak to alcohol. He is weak to relationships. So alone will not be successful. There are also Alcoholic Anonymous based groups such as Unknown and Alteen for family members, for mutual support. As we said, members of AA usually meet at least once a week to discuss the meaning of his message, to talk about their experience with alcohol, with drugs, and to describe the new hope they have found with Alcoholic Anonymous. Mutual encouragement, friendship, and an emphasis on personal responsibilities are used to keep an individual sober. Sober is clear from the drug. Sober is clear from alcoholic, clear from alcohol, clear from drugs, clear from compulsive eating. I will show you the prayer. Are you with me?
Yes, miss. Yes.
Okay, here is the last thing. I'll show you the prayer. Serenity Prayer. Where is it? Here is it. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, So they surrender themselves. So God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change. I can accept that there are things I can't change, like my weakness for the drug, and courage to change the things I can't change because they are so weak, fragile, or fragile, we can say it both ways, to change. Okay, so they ask God to give them the courage to change the things they can, and the wisdom to know the difference between two. Accept what I cannot change and courage to change the things I can. And the wisdom to know the differences. Why wisdom to know the differences? Because there are people who would like to change things that cannot be changed. So they are like pushing the wall. Yani you stand in the wall, in front of the wall, and you push it. Why? Because I want to change it. So you understand? Stop pushing the wall. These are things that you cannot change. Accept them and deal with them. And there are things that you can change. Have courage to change those things. You understand, girls?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Here, Alcoholic Anonymous. Here is great in Unity Service Recovery AA. Alcoholic Anonymous. This is in Great Britain. This is in Britain. Those organizations, they don't make advertisements. You have to search for them, as I did now. Why? Because they believe that a person who wants to change only is the person who will go and search for a solution. So he will do like we did now. He will write Alcoholic Anonymous and he will start calling. And you have never find an advertisement for Alcoholic Anonymous, although that it is a very big organization around the world. Narcotic Anonymous and Alcoholic Anonymous, they have millions of members around the world, but they do not advertise themselves. Okay, because a person who wants to get healed, he has to search for it. So here is the national helpline, for example. Here is in Britain. You can find it in Egypt, you can find it in Saudi Arabia, you can find it in anywhere. Okay, let's alcoholic in Egypt, for example. Here is it. Unity Service Recovery, Alcoholic Anonymous Egypt. Can you see the PowerPoint, the Google, girls?
Yes, miss.
Yes. So here there is online meeting page. Okay. Here, home, meetings, reflections, contacts, links. Let's try in Saudi Arabia. Maybe there isn't. Oh no, here is it. Here is it. Alcoholic Anonymous in Saudi Arabia. Meetings also. Okay. The prayer that they say, the prayer, here is it. The prayer is not only for those who take drugs. The prayer is for all of us, that we accept what we cannot change and have the power and courage to change the things we can change, and wisdom to know the differences. Okay, girls? You understand what we took today?
Yes.
Do you want to ask any questions?
No, thank you, miss.
Are you sure? Okay, guys. See you next week.
See you, Miss. Thank you so much.